Тоже, да, Сань?
Да. Вон.
The grim and oddly fascinating aspect of the afterlife involves the possibility of forming a connection with a lingering entity or loved one. Many people, driven by curiosity or a need to cope with loss, attempt to reach out to the deceased. This can range from visiting grave sites to using devices like Ouija boards, hoping to establish some form of contact. As we know, these methods often yield mixed results. However, some individuals take their fascination with the dead to extreme levels. Historically, there have been infamous cases of people keeping dead bodies in their homes. One notorious example is Carl Tanzler, a necrophile, who kept a deceased and mummified 22-year-old woman in his home for 7 years. Today I want to focus on a similar, but more extreme situation that emerged a few years ago, involving a Russian man named Anatoly Moskvin. This story might haunt your dreams and forever change the way you see large dolls. For those of you with a fear of dolls, this tale will be extra chilling. When a grown man becomes obsessed with dolls, it's a matter that demands serious attention, no questions asked. A lover of history and a certified genius, according to his parents, Anatoly was a socially awkward boy that had difficulty making friends as a child. But Anatoly was extremely smart. He spoke 13 languages, traveled extensively, taught to colleges, and worked as a journalist in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. He was also an expert on cemeteries. Anatoly was born on the 1st of September 1966 in the city of Gorky, Soviet Russia, now known as Nizhny Novgorod. As a young boy, he began visiting the cemeteries with friends. One day, he witnessed an 11-year-old girl's funeral and was reportedly forced to kiss her in her open casket. This event sparked his morbid fascination with the dead. Later in life, Anatoly attended Moscow State University, where he earned a degree in Celtic studies, a field known for its intricate blend of beliefs surrounding life and death. He also joined the Society of Luciferians, aligning himself with the left-hand path, which emphasizes sexual magic and personal anarchy. Anatoly's deepening interest in black magic led him to perform various rituals on dead animals, further fueling his obsessions. Known for his reclusive lifestyle, Anatoly lived with his parents most of his life. He didn't drink, he didn't do drugs, and he didn't smoke. He also remained a virgin. In 2005, along with a fellow academic publisher, the pair were tasked with cataloguing the deceased in over 700 cemeteries around Nizhny Novgorod. Anatoly undertook this project on foot over the next 2 years, walking up to 30 kilometers per day and spending nights in cemeteries or nearby farms, often sleeping in haystacks and drinking from puddles. Despite frequent police questioning, he was never charged with any wrongdoing as he was merely performing his job at the time. From 2006 to 2010, Anatoly worked as a freelance writer for the newspaper Nizhny Novgorod Worker. Contributing a monthly article, he also released a documentary series about his cemetery explorations titled The Great Walks Around Cemeteries and What the Dead Said. This is when Anatoly's dark fascination with the dead reached a horrifying new level. In 2009, locals began to notice that the graves of their loved ones were being disturbed and dug up. Despite nearly 2 years of intensified police investigations, the desecrations continued. Anatoly's downfall came after he targeted Muslim graves following a terrorist attack at Domodedovo Airport in Moscow in 2011. He was caught defacing the pictures of deceased Muslims at a cemetery. This led to the police searching his apartment. The police uncovered something straight out of a horror movie.
Да. Вон.
Ты мне что тут сверху показываешь?
Да, из трупов кукол.
То есть глины там, да?
Да.
Там все девочки, да?
Ну, как правило.
Как тут квартира?
Вечерние съемки. Ноги. Да.
То есть в Крымском районе я лично вернулся в 2008 году.
The 45-year-old Anatoly had 29 large, lifelike dolls scattered throughout his apartment. These dolls resembled lifelike antique figures, dressed in various outfits and adorned with makeup over the fabric resembling paper mache. Their hands were wrapped in fabric as well. However, these were not dolls at all. These were mummified human girls, between the age of 3 and 25 years old. One of the corpses had even been in his possession for over 9 years. I became interested and began sleeping on the graves of children that I liked. I started to receive visits from the spirits of dead children. I had been doing this for 20 years. So I verified whether these were demons or spirits, collecting and cross-checking information. I confirmed that these were indeed spirits of the dead children visiting me. Initially, I was engaged with this work, but eventually adapted. Since not all graves were comfortable to sleep on, I started transporting the bodies to places where I could be more comfortable. I made hideouts and storage areas. Moskvin handled all the mummification himself and placed music boxes inside each of the girls' chests so that they played music. He had removed the photo plaques from each girl's grave and scattered the maps of cemeteries and doll-making manuals throughout his apartment. The clothes the dolls were wearing were actually the clothes the girls were buried in. One mummified girl even had a piece of her gravestone placed inside her, with her name on it. Another had a hospital tag attached, along with her own dried human heart inside. Moskvin also stuffed the girls with rags after preserving them with salt and baking soda. He even celebrated each doll's birthday as if they were real. After 6 months, I needed more space for experiments because the number of children increased. The spirits only appeared in warm weather, and during the 2 cold years, it was hard to work, so I began bringing the bodies home, which I did carefully and slowly, so nobody would find out. I studied the technology of mummification using ancient Egyptian texts. I traveled to Moscow to study this in depth, and visited various regions of Russia to learn about different preservation techniques. I became very interested and started to pay attention to notable people and their techniques. Eventually, I became fascinated. I consider myself an expert in this field, and have written a large number of articles on the history of urban cemeteries. Anatoly asserted that he felt no sexual attraction to the girls. Rather, he felt a deep sympathy for them and wanted them to be happy. Anatoly believed they were calling out for him to help and claimed to love them as if they were his own daughters, a daughter he wished he had. Anatoly would talk and sing to the dolls every single day, and any dolls he grew to dislike would be relegated to the garage. I knew what I was doing was illegal, but during the time when our scientific heroes like Dubinin were conducting experiments with fruit flies, they too knew it was illegal but proceeded anyway. I really wanted a child of my own. I dreamed of having a daughter to pass on all the knowledge I had. I have a large library and wanted to share my knowledge, but my parents didn't approve, thinking I wouldn't manage. When I couldn't have children, I turned to the spirits of dead children. I worked as a journalist and wrote extensively. I would place the bodies in a special arrangement with drilled holes for their eyes and played cartoons for them, singing and interacting with them as if they were alive. I treated them gently. I tried to keep myself in check. I took care and ensured they were comfortable. The children, mostly girls, were treated with respect. I made sure not to let anyone know about this world. Anatoly told authorities that he dug up the bodies because he was lonely, and that he'd been denied by an adoption agency due to his insufficient income. He saw it as a blessing in disguise, believing he could one day resurrect them with science or black magic. Incredibly, Anatoly's parents were apparently unaware that his dolls were actually real girls, despite visiting him often and sharing his living space at times. The stench from his apartment was overwhelming according to his neighbors, and his parents ignoring such obvious signs seems like willful blindness to me. It's hard to believe they didn't know what their son was really up to. My parents rarely visited, and I managed my activities when they were away. I created a small community among the children, with our own customs, our own songs and celebrations. Despite my efforts, I eventually hit a dead end in my studies of white magic. After 10 years of research, I felt like I was running out of new information and decided to focus on black magic instead. I still had a deep attachment to my favorite children, and even though I planned to keep them, I would return them to their original graves. I handled them with care and maintained their dignity. I had a unique approach to dealing with their bodies, ensuring they were treated with respect. Even though I believed they were calling out to me, I still respected their memory and took care not to damage or defile their graves. I struggled with loneliness, especially when my parents were not around. I spent a lot of time working at my computer, writing and interacting with the children in my own way. I created a small world for them, with their own language, songs, and rituals. I felt that my actions were justified by my desire to take care of the children and keep their memory alive. I also worked with live children in my profession, and used my knowledge to understand child psychology and readiness for raising children. My interactions with live children were informed by my experiences with the spirits. In the end, my experiences with both live and dead children shaped my understanding of their needs and my approach to interacting with them. Footprints found at the cemeteries matched Anatoly's shoes, making it pretty clear who was responsible. Anatoly was charged with desecration of graves, earning him the nickname Lord of the Mummies. His neighbors were stunned, describing him as a quiet and pleasant person. Despite the foul odor emanating from his apartment, they had attributed the smell coming from his apartment to something rotting in the basement. This also seems hard to believe. In court, Anatoly confessed to 44 counts of grave desecration and abuse of corpses. He said to the parents of the deceased girls that they had abandoned their loved ones, so he took them, he brought them back home, and he warmed them up. The most disturbing doll in Anatoly's collection was the body of a 10-year-old girl named Olga, who had been a murder victim. After his arrest, Anatoly underwent psychiatric evaluation and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was then admitted to a psychiatric ward and found unfit to stand trial. Anatoly even instructed authorities not to bury the girls too deeply, as he planned to reclaim them once he was released. Despite the victims' families' urgent pleas to keep him in prison for life due to his high risk of reoffending, recent assessments have categorized Anatoly as incapacitated. At 56 years old, he is deemed to need constant care from friends or family rather than confinement. This situation seems incomprehensible. Moskvin reportedly has a girlfriend and aspires to marry her and become a foreign language tutor. However, his release remains uncertain. He has also refused to apologize to the victims' families, claiming they no longer have any rights over the girls. It's a deeply unsettling situation. This case is indeed deeply disturbing and raises many unsettling questions. He appears to have convinced himself that he had some sort of right or mission regarding the dead children, a delusion that speaks to a profound disconnect from reality. If you have more insights or opinions, please feel free to share them in the comment section below. This case definitely pushes the limits of what we consider imaginable and forces us to confront the deepest and darkest aspects of human behavior. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it and want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and be sure to hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Stay safe and have a great day.